Welcome to the DonorWise Learning Library. This session is on assessments, the fee that is charged when donations come in that's used to help fund operations. Many ministries face challenges when raising funds for operations. Instead of raising funds directly for operations, they often choose to use an assessments. Assessments help provide operating funds for your ministry by directing a portion of all donations to operations. Now, there are a few assessment rules in DonorWise. Number one, every designation must have one assessment scheme. Number two, all donations to a designation must be assessed using that scheme, even if it is 0%. You can't pick and choose on an individual donation whether it's going to be assessed or not. There's also a payment type assessment because certain payment types, particularly credit cards and PayPal, charge high fees, which are typically a percentage of the total amount. You can use a payment type assessment to recoup the cost for these donations in addition to the regular assessment. Now let's take a look at how this works in DonorWise. There are 6 places where assessments are identified or used in DonorWise, and I want to show those to you right now. The first place where we see assessments is in the assessment screen in the accounting area, and this is where the assessment schemes are identified. In this example, we have 3 different assessment schemes. One is for staff contributions, those that are given to staff members. This is a 10% assessment. The second is ministry assessment for ministry projects. And those are assessed at 11%. And we also have a special scheme called credit card that is 3%. Now, each of these assessment schemes, the percentage is defined down here in the lower section, which is the distribution for the particular assessment scheme. Notice this is distributions for credit card. And this is going to Responsibility Center 7790, which is the credit card fee fund. So all the assessments for credit cards are going to go specifically to this Responsibility Center, which is the same one that we use to pay those fees. The staff assessment and ministry assessment are a little different. They go directly to the operations fund, which is Responsibility Center 7700. The second area where we see assessments used is in the payment types. When we have a payment type that has a special assessment, such as a credit card one, the assessment scheme is identified here. If there's no assessment scheme, then these payment types have no additional assessment. Now there's 2 areas where we see assessments in the system setup. One is on the designation tab, and this is simply where the default assessment scheme is identified for staff and non-staff, or in reality for people contacts and for organization contacts. So this would be a staff person, non-staff would be a ministry project or some other fund that's not a person. And all this defines is the default one that's used when creating a new designation. I'll show you that in a moment. Also here in the system setup is the 4th area. On the journal tab, this is where we identify the expense account that is going to be used when creating the journals when the donations are posted. The 5th area where we see assessments being used is actually on the designation tab of the View Contacts. So I have a staff member here named Usain Bolt, and his designation tab identifies that he will be using the staff assessment scheme. And I could pick any specific assessment scheme. So even though it defaulted to the staff assessment scheme, I could choose any individual scheme that I wanted. The 6th area where we see assessments is in the general ledger journal that's created when a batch is posted. In this example, our staff member received 400 in contributions. 10% of it was assessed through regular assessment, and 3% of it was a credit card assessment because only 100 of that came in on a credit card, and so only 3% of that 100 was assessed at the special rate. Then 40 was credited to the assessment fund, and 3 was credited to the specific credit card fund. Now, if your ministry was using the same fund for all assessments, this would be 43 and would be combined into one line. So that's a quick overview of assessments. Happy sailing!